At least 18 teams sat out the season. Fans were at the games and many wore masks. As the pandemic continued, more sporting events were canceled, including the 1919 Stanley Cup Finals after players on both teams were hospitalized. And that is connecting the dots.
We're really desperate.
Local business owner Craig Ray applied for a government loan to keep his business going. But when his request got stalled, Craig contacted the Defenders and asked, "Where's the money?"
I know that after you contacted them, things move pretty fast.
Just glad we could help you.
If you're asking where's the money and feeling financial pressure, the WCNC Charlotte Defenders are here to help. Email us at thedefenders@wcnc.com. We're there to get you answers to where's the money, only on WCNC Charlotte.
Tonight, a shocking sign of the times. Utilities across North Carolina have held off on disconnecting water, electricity, and natural gas for more than 1.3 million customers in recent months. And that's the equivalent of every person who lives in Mecklenburg County and then some. The Defender's Nate Morbido learned the economic crisis is forcing the state to step in and help. He's asking, where's the money?
The governor is finalizing a plan that will help people with their utility bills. In the meantime, the state is extending its moratorium on disconnections until September. Tiffany Givens is a single mother.
My assignment ended July 2nd.
And now she's out of work and waiting to collect unemployment. And it's the end of the month.
I need to pay August rent. My car note and car insurance are due also. Like everything is due around the same time.
For the first time since this pandemic started,
this past month I haven't made a payment.
She started defaulting on her bills, and her family's future is uncertain.
To have 2 kids in tow, living on the streets, that's not ideal.
This is not just her reality.
My bills done doubled up, lights, water.
It's the reality for hundreds of thousands of people. Take Charlotte water customers. The most recent state data show 55,000 customers, or 21%, are past due, with more than 15,000 of those people more than 36 days late, considered delinquent and eligible for disconnection. The agency doesn't have numbers to compare to this time last year, but others do. In Union County, more than 7,500 water and wastewater customers, or 15%, are past due, compared to just 421 in June 2019. And in Lincolnton, 531 accounts, or 10%, are considered past due, compared to just 175 in June of last year. Just this week, the North Carolina Utilities Commission offered yet another extension to those facing disconnections, banning cutoffs for 1 more month.
My administration is putting in place an effort to help people with their rent and utility bills.
The order buys Governor Roy Cooper time to implement a relief plan.
The idea of this CARES Act money would be to make direct payments to utility companies.
Struggling families know this won't solve their problems for good.
You can only tell them to hold everything but for so long until they say, "Here you go, you're sitting in the dog."
But it should provide temporary comfort.
I'm an adult with 2 kids. I don't want to impose on anyone else.
A chance for Tiffany Givens to get her financial situation in order, and a chance for her kids to be kids and not face adult problems.
I don't want them to be too concerned and worried about this because, school is coming up. I want them to focus on, school.
There's also a ban on late fees. State records show North Carolina utilities have not charged $31 million in late fees and penalties since April 1st. Nate Morbido, WCNC Charlotte.
Staggering numbers there. For more information on help with your utility bills, rent, and other resources available to you, head over to WCNC.com/money.
WCNC Charlotte News Now.
A local county is testing new technology which could protect first responders across the region from contracting COVID-19. More than a dozen Burke County ambulances are now equipped with ultraviolet PCO units. WCNC Charlotte's Brandon Goldner shows us how the technology works, all new at 6.
What the popular rescue TV shows don't show you is how much time paramedics spend cleaning their ambulances. They use special products, not the kinds that you and I would use. But just like us, paramedics can only reach into so many corners and crevices. This new technology will help them. Burke County EMS Major Jason Black's job is to constantly check the pulse of COVID-19 cleaning guidelines.
And it is changing. It's hard to keep on top of everything. Here in the last month or so, it's settled down, but initially about every day we were taking.
An ambulance offline to undergo deep cleaning after caring for a possible COVID-19 patient. Sergeant Robbie Milton has been on those calls.
There's a significant amount of time in between each call that goes into disinfecting, cleaning, and preparing.
He says paramedics now feel safer thanks to this box, an ultraviolet PCO unit. This machine releases UV light, which can disinfect pathogens, including the coronavirus. Jason Seidel of CU Healthy Products helped get these units in 13 of the county's ambulances. He says typically UV light can only disinfect what it's shining light on.
This device, when it emits the ions from the top of the device, it can actually wrap around and disinfect surfaces that you can't see.
Helping paramedics clean the corners they can't reach. Researchers, including here at Carolina's healthcare system Blue Ridge, plan to study the effectiveness of this technology to see if other ambulances around the Charlotte region could use it. In Morganton, Brandon Goldner, WCNC Charlotte.
Download the WCNC Charlotte News app and find out why WCNC.com is the #1 choice for local TV news on your phone and in your home.
And as the new school year approaches and more districts like CMS opt for remote learning plans, there's an urgent effort underway to make sure all students have access to both devices and the internet. In Mecklenburg County, around 10,000 families don't have a home-based computer and 19% of homes don't have internet access. WCNC Charlotte's Ashley Daly has been looking into this today and discovered nonprofits are stepping in, hoping to help close those gaps for a lot of people. Ashley?
Yeah, Fred, and just today, CMS said that together with the CMS Foundation and 1 Million Foundation, they expect to distribute 16,000 Wi-Fi hotspots by the start of the school year. But for other kids, like kids in foster care, their need is greater. Some say raising children takes a village. In Charlotte, the nonprofit Youth Villages is just that.
Youth Villages is really just an advocate for kids, especially youth that are aging out of the foster care system.
Its LifeSet program specifically supports kids aging out of foster care, offering guidance on how to apply to college or find a job.
Foster care can be a tough road, and so they're trying to work through mental health stuff. They're trying to get back on track with school because a lot of kids in foster care have jumped from school district to school district, so that already puts them a little bit behind.
Fearing remote learning could force this group of kids to fall even further behind, jeopardizing their chance at college or finding work. Youth Villages is expanding their annual Backpack Heroes campaign, and in addition to school supplies, is this year also asking for donations.
So if they need a laptop, we're working to provide those. If they need a Wi-Fi hotspot, we're working to provide those. Another worry that a lot of our counselors have is tutoring.
Something as big as a laptop or as small as a backpack, all with the ability to change a child's life.
Whiteout! I've always wanted whiteout!
A lot of times when kids move from place to place, they don't have anything that is theirs. And so a backpack to them symbolizes like a little bit of security.
Now, even though students won't actually be going back into the classrooms, Youth Villages says they're still collecting school supplies, saying they're actually needed now more than ever, saying that before, students could rely on the school or maybe sharing with friends for those supplies. But they say now that they're at home, things like pencils or calculators are just as important as Wi-Fi. Reporting live in Dilworth, Ashley Daly, WCNC Charlotte.
So true. Ashley, thank you for that reporting.
Well, a lot of Carolina college students are moving back to campus this weekend, but things are looking a lot different. WCNC Charlotte's Savannah Levens has the latest.
COVID's not loosening its grip on the Carolinas, but for many college students, the show must go on. NC State students start moving in this weekend with safety measures in place. Other Carolina schools prepping too. Elon University mailed testing kits to all 7,000 students ahead of their arrival in a few weeks. App State also reopening for in-person learning, but mandating masks in all classrooms. Clemson requiring all students and staff to be tested for COVID 5 days before returning to campus. Many schools eager to welcome students back, but with the pandemic in mind. A New York Times survey discovered at least 6,600 COVID cases connected to 270 colleges. A new study from Yale researchers found to open safely, colleges need to test students every 2 days, a frequency that far exceeds current CDC guidelines. College students, staff, and parents hoping the guidelines on campus are enough to keep students safe. Savannah Levins, WCNC Charlotte.
Tornadoes to tropical storms. Severe weather is extreme weather, and we're here to keep you safe and to help you navigate your day.
The First Warn team is there for you, no matter the conditions and the location.
We're in your hand with the WCNC weather app, and we'll always be there on WCNC Charlotte.
So wake up, plan your day and your life. The First Warn Storm Team will be there for you.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Dozens of companies in multiple countries racing to be the first to create a COVID-19 vaccine. But it turns out when this thing finally comes out, some healthy competition is not what we need. The race is on to find a vaccine for the coronavirus, but global competition to find one could spark another problem. Who gets it first? Let's connect the dots. There are close to 200 vaccines in development around the world, and researchers say at least 2 of them have produced immune responses in patients. Here's the problem, though. One of those is being worked on by British scientists. The UK has already paid for the first 100 million doses produced, and the U.S. government has made a deal with Pfizer to get 100 million doses of its vaccine. This all works for countries that have money to invest in a massive undertaking like vaccine research, but there are a lot of countries that don't have those resources. But that's not just a problem for them. As we've learned, viruses don't respect borders. An ongoing outbreak in one country can be a threat to the entire world. Public health experts warn we need to come up with a plan to make sure everyone has access to a vaccine to end the threat to us all. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Now, it's the first weekend of a statewide ban on selling alcohol past 11 p.m. in North Carolina. And as you can expect, business owners who depend on late night sales aren't too thrilled about it. New tonight, WCNC's Brandon Goldner talked to some local business owners who tell us what this is like for them. Brandon.
There was a famous commercial of yesteryear. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? But with the pandemic, we can now change it to it's 11 p.m. Are you holding a beer? Case Warnamundi owns Old Town Public House in downtown Cornelius.
We were just starting to pick up a little bit here. I think people are more comfortable with coming out, and now we're definitely heading in the opposite direction, which hurts.
As a bottle shop, it's technically considered a retailer, so it's allowed to be open. While Mecklenburg County launched its own alcohol curfew last week, Cornelius leaders didn't sign on to it.
Putting the responsibility in the hands of the businesses, trusting that we're going to do the right thing.
But with the governor ordering businesses to go cold turkey every night at 11, he has to follow it. And being a bottle shop that doesn't sell food, less late night, less pints, less profit.
We need people in here to sustain our business, to make our employees money, since they, mainly make money off of tips.
Mecklenburg County Public Health is also relying on tips, as in complaints. Public Health Director Gibby Harris will be announcing a plan with CMPD and other agencies to outline specific, consistent ways to enforce those alcohol restrictions.
We really want to do what we can to encourage compliance rather than issuing citations and closing places down.
Should be a good show tonight.
Warnamundi will soon be opening an outdoor patio, which he hopes will cover some of the losses. And he says there has been strong community support.
We're all in it together, though, so we're going to make it through. But, yeah, it's challenging times.
Gibby Harris says she'll be announcing the specifics of that enforcement plan in the coming days. In Cornelius, Brandon Goldner, WCNC Charlotte.
Thank you for making WCNC.com your #1 choice for local TV news on your phone and in your home, and trusting us on Facebook by giving WCNC Charlotte more followers than any other local TV news source. Thanks again for making us #1.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. The country on pins and needles, waiting for a COVID-19 vaccine so our lives can just get back to normal, right? But there is something else in the works that could be crucial to reopening the economy. It could be a game changer when it comes to battling coronavirus. At-home test kits. So how do they work? Let's connect the dots. This week, the FDA gave the thumbs up to the at-home kits. Several tests are already in the works. One from Columbia University is a saliva-based test that takes 30 minutes to get results. Another from the University of Colorado at Boulder that's able to return results in 45 minutes. Both tests require you to spit into a test tube where it's mixed with reagents and heat, changing color to indicate whether it's positive or negative. Experts hope they'd be as easy and cheap to use as home pregnancy tests. But doctors warn there's a lot more work to be done before they hit store shelves. And that is Connecting the Dots.
WCNC Charlotte News Now.
Here in Mecklenburg, there are now more than 20,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases, but the positive test percentage is under 10%, which is trending downwards. What is reportedly increasing, though, are deaths. We've just learned that one more person died of COVID today, and 12 deaths were reported yesterday. Now, that is because of a delay in reporting, so not all of those deaths happened yesterday. But we do know that testing is one of the big ways to track and combat the coronavirus, and today, dozens of people stopped by the Valerie Woodard Center on Freedom Drive in Charlotte for a free COVID-19 testing. The Mecklenburg County Health Director Gibby Harris says doing these events on occasion instead of daily makes sure that the labs aren't overwhelmed and people can get their results back within 2 to 3 days. But one thing Harris noted today, though, was that not as many people showed up as in the past. She says part of that may be because of other community partners ramping up their testing and the event starting earlier in the day. But she also believes people may be opting out because they just don't want to hear about the coronavirus anymore.
What we're terming COVID fatigue. People are tired of hearing about it. People are wanting to get back to normal. And I think that could potentially be impacting whether people are coming in to be tested or not.
Now, she went on to say that there's really no foreseeable end in immediate sight here, that we will be wearing masks and social distancing for a while now, and continuing to stay the course is the quickest way to get through this.
Tornadoes to tropical storms. Severe weather is extreme weather, and we're here to keep you safe and to help you navigate your day.
The Firstborn team is there for you, no matter the conditions and the location.
We're in your hand with the WCNC weather app, and we'll always be there on WCNC Charlotte.
So wake up, plan your day and your life. The First Warn Storm Team will be there for you.
The pandemic continues. Businesses have had to get a little creative to keep afloat, and one South End event venue has just decided to cater to students ahead of the new school year. WCNC's Kendall Morris explains.
As children head back to class, the classroom is heading online for many students. Parents are left struggling to help their children learn remotely without a teacher close by. The Collectors Room in South End is working to be part of the solution.
When we realized we could no longer operate as a full-service event venue, we thought, why not offer our space? It's huge, it's clean, it's open, we have Wi-Fi, we have tables and chairs.
The Collectors Room typically hosts events with up to 300 to 400 people in the space. But due to COVID-19 restrictions, the parties can't have more than 10 people inside in the pandemic.
We've had to really just rethink how we're doing business and go with the flow as best we can, and just like everyone, keep changing with the times.
That change means switching out fancy soirees for South End Study Hall. The venue announcing it will open up a safe, socially distant space for students and their tutors to continue learning at a price per week.
Drop them for an hour, hour block of time up to 5 hour block of time. Everyone can get their work done and come back together and, still be sane and have some semblance of a schedule.
The space is ideal for pods of 3 to 4 students with a tutor, but self-sufficient students are also welcome. The business adjusting with the times.
We're really trying to just do our part and be together in this.
Offering an option for students to continue studying with the change of scenery. Kendall Morris, WCNC Charlotte.
Turning back now to Hurricane Hannah. The storm has just made landfall on the Texas coast, and hospitals are making preparations, of course, amid a pandemic. And while Hannah won't impact the Carolinas, South Carolina officials and hospitals are already gearing up for the possibility of future hurricanes this season. WCNC Charlotte's Kendall Morris shows us what they're doing.
As Hurricane Hannah moved toward the Texas coast, people in Texas made plans to battle both the storm and the pandemic. The Mercedes Recreation Center in Hidalgo County is being turned into an emergency shelter, housing residents that are COVID-19 positive. Meanwhile, the town's middle school will shelter non-COVID citizens displaced from their homes. It's a challenge South Carolina leaders are preparing to face this hurricane season.
We sent out a mutual aid agreement, which is an agreement throughout the state that hospitals will assist one another if a coast is experiencing a hurricane. The hospitals from the coastal areas will then be transferred inland.
The South Carolina Hospital Association is working on hurricane disaster plans. Due to COVID-19, those plans might change this year, especially as hospitals across the state and region are dealing with capacity and safety issues due to the pandemic. It may even mean hospitals might decide to ride out a less severe storm.
We've had situations where hospitals were asked to evacuate almost 5 years in a row. We've shown that we can do that. Now we need to show that we can make the decision to shelter in place and stay just as safe as if they were asked to leave.
South Carolina officials say there won't be as many people in shelters to allow for social distancing.
We're really desperate.
Local business owner Craig Ray applied for a government loan to keep his business going. But when his request got stalled, Craig contacted the defenders and asked, "Where's the money?"
I know that after you contacted them, things moved pretty fast.
Just glad we could help you.
If you're asking where's the money and feeling financial pressure, the WCNC Charlotte Defenders are here to help. Email us at thedefenders@wcnc.com. We're there to get you answers to where's the money, only on WCNC Charlotte.
On the same track today, Atrium Health partnered with community groups to deliver 8,000 free masks to Hispanic businesses to help fight the spread of COVID-19. The mask giveaway went on from 10 until 2 this afternoon on Tyvola Road.
So this has hit our community very hard. The numbers are there. Over half of the cases reported are Hispanics, small business owners, and our collaboration today with Hispanic Businesses of Charlotte, Progressive Hispano News, and Atrium Health is really helping us bridge that gap, bringing the community, the local.
Says many Hispanic business owners don't have the money to purchase personal protective equipment.
WCNC Charlotte News Now.
Science proves wearing a mask is better than not wearing one, but not every mask is the same. And public records reveal Mecklenburg County ordered some masks that failed to meet safety standards. The Defender's Nate Morbido discovered the county tested the masks for quality and safety and then returned them to Amazon for a refund.
An Amazon spokesperson told us the company has removed the product in question and taken action against the bad actor that supplied it. That after Mecklenburg County bought 200 surgical masks during the first month of this pandemic.
People think we're behind the game in having required masks.
Long before Mecklenburg County started requiring people to mask up,
we need people to wear masks.
The county practiced what's called respiratory etiquette and found these surgical masks less effective, running a series of tests in April before handing them out to employees. The county compared the new masks bought on Amazon to the ones its employees previously used and raised concerns about water beading on the inside of the Amazon mask, not as absorbent as the other, warning if the wearer sneezes, whatever lands on the mask can sit there and potentially run out. Put a drop on here. That one does bead up. Turns out 2 of my surgical masks do the same thing. It beads up on this one as well. The county also questioned a lack of labeling and overall mouth coverage, the mask riding up when an employee spoke.
You can see it comes out around the bottom of the mask.
Peter Jobst with Virginia Tech University has tested his fair share of masks.
I would just wear them.
And surgical masks are his preferred face covering when close to others.
The blue side's more water repellent. The white side is less water repellent.
A little water beading on the inside, which he found on his mask too, doesn't really bother him.
I'd look for a mask that has multiple layers.
Instead, he says it's the material in between the blue outside and white inside.
That's where all the work happens.
That really matters.
If you sneeze into this mask, it should hold that material. It's not that water repellent that it's not going to hold it.
His best advice, any mask is better than no mask.
We're not really wearing it for ourselves. We're wearing it for the community.
But if something seems off, like it did for the county, don't be afraid to find the next best thing.
In my opinion, if you've got a good supply and you find something that's, of question, then pitch it and use something better.
Amazon requires sellers to provide accurate information, but a spokesperson told us the company has processes in place to proactively block inaccurate claims before they're published on the website. In addition, there's a 24/7 tool that's constantly monitoring hundreds of millions of products, looking for any inaccurate claims the filters initially missed. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Download the WCNC Charlotte News app and find out why WCNC.com is the #1 choice for local TV news on your phone and in your home.
Right now, districts across the Carolinas, they are getting ready for a school year like they've never had before. Wake Up Charlotte's Chloe Leshner joining us live now from Gaston County. And Chloe, in the midst of so much uncertainty, more and more parents are now turning to private schools.
Good morning, Carolyn. Yeah, private schools don't have to follow the governor's guidelines. So many in our area, including Gaston Day School, are reopening for in-person learning. It seems to be something families are looking for because they all say they've seen a major spike in interest.
It won't look the same as years past, but students will be back at Gaston Day School next month. The school's seeing a major increase in interest from public school parents.
And when CMS and Gaston County and York County announced their plans, it was just overwhelming.
Many desperately searching for an in-person option for their kids.
Our response is to caution them from moving them to an independent school landscape for 1 year just to solve a child care need.
But they have limited space this year because they're bringing all 500 kids back at once. They're spreading out into every inch of the building. The cafeteria and theater are now classrooms. Before they walk inside, students will be met with a thermal scanner. Inside, there are reminders to stay 6 feet apart and masks are required.
This place used to operate like a college campus with students moving all over, working on cross-curricular projects with other grades. And unfortunately, one of the sacrifices we've had to make is to develop cohort groups where students are isolated so that if we do have somebody test positive, we don't have to address the entire school. We're just looking at segmented populations.
And regardless of if it's a private school or a public school, these plans will likely have to change based on what's happening with the coronavirus. I am told that Gaston Day School can switch overnight to an all-remote learning plan if necessary. Live in Gaston County, Chloe Leshner, Wake Up Charlotte.
And we've learned that flexibility can be so important at a time like this. All right, Chloe, thank you.
An all-new Defenders investigation revealing possible inconsistencies with North Carolina's handling of unemployment claims. Tonight, we're hearing from a young woman who says she waited for months only to be denied benefits. The teaching assistant applied through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, or PUA. But while she was denied, some of her coworkers were granted benefits from the same furlough. She contacted our Defenders team after seeing our previous story where the state reversed its decision. WCNC Charlotte Defender Alex Shabbat finding out where's the money. He joins us with what he's uncovered.
Well, the state's letter said she was denied because she didn't have COVID-19, but that didn't make any sense to her because that's not why she applied. And her coworkers got a very different response.
These pre-pandemic photos show Nashley Maranta listening to the needs of little ones.
I do work at a child development center.
But as a grown-up, she says the state of North Carolina hasn't shown her the same respect.
I've gotten hung up on, been on hold for hours.
The teaching assistant tells us she first applied for unemployment benefits when she received this notice from her employer in April. It said she'd be furloughed beginning May 15th.
I was freaking out. I have never been unemployed.
But as she waited, her bills piled up. Student loans, rent, and then a car accident. It wasn't until mid-May she received an answer, and not the one she wanted.
I'm trying not to cry because I have so many things to pay for. Sorry.
According to this letter from the North Carolina Department of Commerce, she was denied benefits from the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, or PUA. It says she's ineligible because she was not diagnosed with COVID-19.
Never did I put on my claims that I was furloughed or laid off due to having COVID. It was because of the pandemic. So I'm confused on that part.
And while she was denied, we've learned her coworkers were granted benefits.
Everything is the same as mine.
In fact, Meredith Morse says she had the very same job title and was furloughed at the exact same time at the Cavalry Child Development Center. But she's been receiving PUA benefits since back in May.
It was 1 week from the time that I applied.
They're receiving their benefits and I'm not.
Do you think it's fair the way this has been handled?
For Ashley, not at all. She's the same as everybody else that's applied at Calvary.
Maranta says she reached out to our defenders team after seeing our previous investigation about Margaret Rossetti, a travel agent who became unemployed during the pandemic.
I don't know where to go next.
Rossetti was initially denied PUA benefits, but the state reversed their decision a day after our story aired.
In less than 24 hours, everything was resolved.
When I saw your name, I was like, oh my gosh, that's Alex Shabbat, like the one who just did Margaret's story.
And now she's hoping someone from the state will listen to her too.
I just want to get someone who can be effective and give me answers.
Maranta says her employer has offered her a job back in the coming days, but right now she's looking for other places to work. In Charlotte, Alex Shabbat, WCNC Charlotte.
And if you are having trouble getting your unemployment benefits, WCNC Charlotte wants to help you. We have a complete guide to help you start the process, and we'll explain what to expect after you press submit. Log on to WCNC.com/money and click on the unemployment guide.
Tornadoes to tropical storms. Severe weather is extreme weather, and we're here to keep you safe and to help you navigate your day.
The Firstborn team is there for you, no matter the conditions and the location.
We're in your hand with the WCNC weather app, and we'll always be there on WCNC Charlotte.
So wake up, plan your day and your life. The Firstborn Storm Team will be there for you.
All right, time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Zoom calls, meetings are part of our new normal, but for a lot of us, they've become exhausting. And there are a few reasons why you may be experiencing Zoom fatigue. If you're getting burned out from all your video calls and meetings, you're not alone. Turns out there's some science behind why it's so draining. Let's connect the dots. Believe it or not, video chatting causes our brains to work harder. Scientists say it takes extra energy to process nonverbal cues, things like facial expression, tone, and body language. Another contributing factor, when we're physically on camera, we are very aware that we're being watched. That social pressure is stressful for a lot of folks. And for a lot of us, work and family are happening in the same space. It's mentally exhausting to not be able to fully separate the two. So if you miss your next Zoom meeting, just tell your boss it's for your mental health. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Welcome back. As the world races for a COVID-19 vaccine, it has never been more important for clinical trials to reflect the population at large. The COVID-19 pandemic is taking an unequal toll on minority populations, but Black Americans are consistently underrepresented in clinical trials for diseases ranging from diabetes to heart disease to cancers. And tonight we take a closer look at the problem and the repercussions in our continuing series, Inequality in America.
I was on my deathbed in 2016.
28-year-old Shelby Holler of Statesville has difficulty talking after a brain surgery for a cancer in her spine that spread throughout her body. Her mom, Candace, says a clinical trial was her last chance.
She drives now. She walks. She's out living life.
I know that feeling of doom.
Rhonda Long is hoping the clinical trial she learned about from Duke University helps her fight a rare form of bile duct cancer. All
All prescription drugs must undergo clinical trials before FDA approval. But a lack of diverse representation, typically less than 5% within those trials, is threatening the effectiveness of treatment.
If we're going to be developing new treatments and therapies for every segment of our population, then we have to understand how those new drugs work with every segment of our population.
Dana Dornsive saw firsthand how difficult the clinical trial process was when her brother-in-law was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Her nonprofit Lazarix helps patients like Shelby and Rhonda navigate their options and provides financial assistance for travel-related expenses. Like most clinical trial patients, they both travel out of state 1 to 2 times a month.
We would have not been able to go.
And I wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Airfare, hotels, Uber, and parking all add up.
Those prices are all over the place.
The financial burden is often a barrier to clinical trial participation in minority communities, but it's not the only one.
Historically, there have been a lot of medical injustices. And because of that, there is a lot of fear and a lot of mistrust. And that has been handed down through the generations.
Like the Tuskegee Airmen study, where Black participants were withheld penicillin treatments for syphilis, or Henrietta Lacks, a woman whose cells were taken without her knowledge and became vital for developing the polio vaccine and in vitro fertilization.
Many people go to their grave never having known that they could have participated in a cancer clinical trial.
They told us I wouldn't be here in 5 years, and I've been here 11.
It touches my heart to be a part of it and to be a part of something that is going to give other patients hope, other patients longer time to live.
Of course, a lack of transportation and childcare, less awareness and access to health care are other factors making it difficult for minorities to participate in clinical trials. But as you can see in that story, Fred, just how important these clinical trials are.
Yeah, and you go into any black barbershop and you ask to take vitals of a black man. There's always this thing because of the historical, what she said, medical injustices and distrust. That is a real thing if you've never heard of it. Wow. Fascinating topic there. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for making WCNC.com your #1 choice for local TV news on your phone and in your home, and trusting us on Facebook by giving WCNC Charlotte more followers than any other local TV news source. Thanks again for making us #1.
New numbers out today show many North Carolinians are still jobless as the pandemic continues. The number of Americans seeking unemployment benefits climbed to almost 1.5 million this past week. Meanwhile, in Washington, Congress is battling over a new stimulus bill as federal unemployment benefits are set to expire this weekend. Defender Savannah Levins is asking, where's the money?
As of right now, that extra $600 a week in federal unemployment benefits is set to expire this Saturday, July 25th. Today, Governor Roy Cooper and other state leaders urged Congress to extend it.
North Carolina inching close to 2 million unemployment claims since the start of the pandemic, with more than 28,000 North Carolinians filing for the first time this week.
The problem's not going away. More people are applying for unemployment this week. Our numbers continue to climb.
Casey Wilkinson, executive director for state nonprofit Piedmont Rising, says the number of jobless Carolinians is concerning, especially since the $600 weekly federal unemployment benefit is set to expire this weekend.
If the federal benefit's not extended, it would be devastating for North Carolinians. It would mean more people facing evictions, more people not being able to put food on their tables, more people not being able to afford health care.
Governor Cooper making the same plea to Congress this week.
This extra $600 has been especially important here in North Carolina, and it'll hurt these people and our economy if their benefits are drastically reduced.
Critics have argued the extra benefits are not incentivizing people to get back to work, with many workers receiving more from unemployment checks than their usual pay.
Those critics just aren't based in reality. So you got folks that want to work desperately, but their businesses can't open because it's not safe. You got folks who would like to work very much, but they're, a top risk for contracting the coronavirus, so it's not safe for them to be out at work. These are the folks that will be left behind if you don't expand federal unemployment benefits.
Meanwhile, Congress is scrambling to agree on another federal stimulus package, which is likely to include another round of $1,200 payments to Americans.
The clock is ticking, and all eyes are on Washington right now.
The stimulus package being debated in Congress right now, in addition to those $1,200 payments, also include proposals to increase subsidies for small businesses and proposals to put more than $100 billion into helping schools and universities reopen safely. Reporting in Charlotte, Savannah Levins, WCNC Charlotte.
WCNC Charlotte News Now.
Emotional plea from a daughter watching her mother battle coronavirus from afar. Follow health officials' guidance. That's what she's saying. She told our Vanessa Rufus, everyone's behavior right now matters, especially for those most vulnerable.
We first spoke with Lisa Grant in May. Her mother is in a South Carolina nursing home, and at the time she said there were no coronavirus cases there. And then last week, she got the dreaded call.
When she said she's positive, I thought, how? How did it happen? No one's able to go into the nursing home.
Disbelief for Lisa Grant and her family. After suffering a stroke, becoming partially paralyzed and nonverbal, Grant's 68-year-old mother, Ida, faces a new battle.
An employee tested positive on June 18th, and then a resident tested positive on July 9th. And then we got the phone call last week.
Grant says it's a wake-up call that's changed her perspective from when we first spoke.
I was just so positive and uplifting, and I'm like, okay, they haven't had any cases, and it's going to, we thought it was going to go away.
But in fact, cases in South Carolina continue to grow, including those in congregate care facilities. Cases up 56% since a month ago. In a state where 1 in 5 are consistently testing positive, Grant says safe behaviors matter because the virus is still getting to the most vulnerable.
I thought it was serious before, but when you think about just she has no voice, and I have to be able to speak for her. Someone who is going through this myself, I'm just saying, if we could just continue to social distance, wear a mask, be careful, because it's other people that's affected.
And Grant says her mom's only symptom is a dry cough, but she says she has multiple risk factors. She says the worst part is not being allowed inside to hold her mother's hand. Vanessa Rufus, WCNC Charlotte.
Tornadoes to tropical storms. Severe weather is extreme weather, and we're here to keep you safe and to help you navigate your day.
The Firstborn team is there for you, no matter the conditions and the location.
We're in your hand with the WCNC weather app, and we'll always be there on WCNC Charlotte.
So wake up, plan your day and your life. The First Warn Storm Team will be there for you.
24 hours, new business restrictions in Mecklenburg County will be in effect. That means tighter rules for restaurants that serve alcohol. Now, some local businesses are saying shutting down the bar early could hurt their bottom line. WCNC Charlotte's Hunter Sines joins us now live in NODA with more. Hunter?
Sarah, tonight is the last night you can do just this, sit at a bar and grab a drink in parts of Mecklenburg County. That's because starting tomorrow, all restaurants that serve alcohol will have to stop all in-person operations by 11 o'clock sharp. It's cutting you off earlier than expected, and it's pouring out the profits for local businesses.
Mecklenburg County is setting a new last call for alcohol.
This revised proclamation is designed to put a stop to the behaviors we have seen in recent weeks, where we have seen videos of establishments where patrons are not wearing masks and social distancing has been non-existent.
These videos forcing county leaders to close all restaurants that serve alcohol at 11 o'clock. Restaurants like Roy's Kitchen and Patio.
We like to consider ourselves our little island in NODA. For people to get away and have a drink and feel like they're somewhere else.
Alcohol sales account for 70% of revenue for the 2-week-old restaurant.
Us losing that, especially during the heightened hours between an 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. is a huge hit for us.
The order also bans you from standing or sitting at a bar at any time.
Anything I can grab for you?
Operating partner Courtney Neesmith says they will lose $20,000 every weekend under the new order, and he's not sure if this island will stay afloat.
I hope we will survive. I don't know. It's questionable right now.
Now, the new order will also ban shared games like this one that are seen at a lot of local businesses that we all know of. CMPD says they will be sure to warn local businesses before they cite them. The only two towns in the county that are not on board with this are Cornelius and Huntersville. In Noda, Hunter Signs, WCNC Charlotte.
Welcome back. Tonight, we meet a local man out of work for months, struggling to get help from the unemployment office until he reached out to WCNC Charlotte Defenders team. And his long-awaited benefits are finally on the way after Nate Morabito asked, "Where's the money?"
The money is now headed his way, all $5,000. And his case is a good lesson for anyone waiting on unemployment out of South Carolina.
We call this a sun salute.
Michael Aller spends his days helping others de-stress.
And then release.
But the yoga instructor himself has needed some help recently.
Think of the breath as oil in an engine.
Out of work since March,
bring your hands to heart center.
He misses teaching yoga to active adults living in a South Carolina community.
This money would go a long way.
He also misses the paycheck.
Along with the other yoga instructors and fitness instructors and independent contractors, we've all experienced the same exact frustration and not receiving any funds.
State records show Aller filed for unemployment in May and even received a debit card.
It shows zero balance.
But no money. Here's why. He said when he tried to file his weekly certification early on, the website wouldn't let him.
The system kept timing out and buffering and then timing out and throwing you off.
So he says, tired of trying and unable to get in touch with an unemployment agent,
I just gave up.
He quit. After no weekly certifications, the system assumed he was back to work and essentially closed his claim.
The takeaway is to just be patient.
That is one of the lessons here. You have to keep trying to file your certification every week, telling the state whether or not you worked. Keep this in mind. In South Carolina, Sundays are the busiest certifying days. The state says depending on website traffic, it can cause slowdowns. Even so, the Department of Employment and Workforce says hundreds of thousands of others have been able to certify on a weekly basis. The state also encourages people to use a laptop or computer to certify rather than a phone. You have some good news?
Yes, Nate, I have some great news.
Less than a day after we reached out to the state on his behalf, an agent called and reactivated his claim.
You really kind of moved the ball.
By the next day, he says the state confirmed thousands of dollars in unemployment benefits were headed his way. That must be a relief.
Yeah, it's a great relief.
A relief.
You can just quiet the mind.
And a roadmap back to relaxation.
Namaste.
One more thing about this case. Aller says he tried calling the state multiple times with no luck, but the state told us its records show the number associated with his claim never contacted the claims number. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
And a reminder for those who are unemployed, we have an entire section on our website dedicated to helping you get the money you need to pay the bills. Just head over to WCNC.com/money and you'll find all the resources available to you.
Really desperate.
Local business owner Craig Ray applied for a government loan to keep his business going. But when his request got stalled, Craig contacted the Defenders and asked, "Where's the money?"
I know that after you contacted them, things moved pretty fast.
Just glad we could help you.
If you're asking where's the money and feeling financial pressure, the WCNC Charlotte Defenders are here to help. Email us at thedefenders@WCNC.com. We're there to get you answers to where's the money, only on WCNC Charlotte.
Well, we're getting a look at plans to curb the spread of COVID-19 in local voting booths. For the first time ever, early voters will be able to cast their ballots at some of the Queen City's biggest sporting venues, Bank of America Stadium, Spectrum Center, and Bojangles Coliseum. New at 6, WCNC Charlotte's Ashley Daly joins us with details on what voters can expect.
Well, they certainly offer the added space, allowing more people inside at one time, which election officials hope will not only keep poll workers and voters safe, but they also hope that will prevent long lines from forming outside.
With the 2020 presidential election less than 4 months away, elections officials are in a race of their own, working to ensure voters feel safe. Michael Dickerson is director of elections for Mecklenburg County.
The check-in counters will now be not 2 per 6 feet. It's going to be 1 every 6 feet.
To allow for social distancing, Mecklenburg County election officials added 11 new early voting locations, now totaling 33, up from 22 during the last election.
This is the first time we've ever had this much coverage throughout the county.
New sites include Bank of America Stadium, the Spectrum Center, and Bojangles Coliseum. Others include middle and high schools, now empty as students move toward remote learning, many in neighborhoods who've previously never had a polling location. Also new this election, extended early voting hours.
We're going to give you options.
Among options voters have this election is absentee ballots or voting by mail. In South Carolina, officials approved prepaid postage for all mailed absentee ballots and are currently working on opening absentee voting to all. In North Carolina, anyone can vote by mail.
If you're anywhere, way, shape, or form concerned about voting in person, ask for that absentee ballot now.
And just to add, election officials here in Mecklenburg County say they are hiring paid positions. Reporting in Uptown, Ashley Daly, WCNC Charlotte.
WCNC Charlotte News Now.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. We're learning new things about the coronavirus every single day, and we're sharing them with you right here on Wake Up Charlotte. But now a new study shows just how dangerous this virus is, even to people who barely showed any symptoms.
New evidence suggests the long-term effects of coronavirus could be more serious than we thought. Let's connect the dots. The new research found 78% of people diagnosed with COVID-19 showed evidence of heart damage weeks after they recovered. The study looked at 100 patients who had not experienced symptoms related to their heart while battling coronavirus, and the patients were mostly healthy before their COVID-19 diagnosis. Most had recovered from coronavirus at home, and 18% had never even had symptoms. The damage found included inflammation of the heart muscle and the protective tissue that surrounds it. What researchers don't know is how long this heart damage sticks around. The patients in the study were put through an MRI 2 to 3 months after their diagnosis. A troubling sign as we learn more about the long-term effects of the coronavirus. And that is Connecting the Dots.
Download the WCNC Charlotte News app and find out why WCNC.com is the #1 choice for local TV news on your phone and in your home.
Coronavirus survival story and a mother's warning. A Charlotte mom who worked as an ER doctor for many years has a warning tonight after getting COVID-19 from her 14-year-old. She says her family had been doing mostly everything right until she let her kids see some friends. WCNC Charlotte defender Michelle Bowden has this family's exclusive story and why they hope you'll learn from their mistakes.
The teen had very minor symptoms very briefly. The mom, though, is still recovering weeks later. And as a doctor, she says this is a lesson for her and for so many people. Teens are spreaders and they need to be wearing masks whenever they're around people.
It's a really bizarre, unusual thing. It is frightening.
Kimry Martin is an ER doctor turned author. She hung up her scrubs 4 years ago to focus on her writing, but last month, this mother of 3 quickly went back into doctor mode when one of her teenagers spiked a fever after playing field hockey outside with friends.
And just feeling yucky, vomited once. And again, I truly thought this was heat exhaustion.
But a COVID test came back positive, and days later, Martin herself started feeling awful.
I felt super achy. My muscles all hurt. It actually hurt to move around. It hurt to get out of bed. I had a sore throat. And then once the initial symptoms resolved, I started noticing these bizarre side effects. My pulse would zoom up really high every time I stood up and tried to move around. I got super dizzy.
She's most frustrated because the family thought they were doing just about everything right before they got sick.
I have not really left the house in months.
But after months at home, her kids were begging to see friends, and she finally let them, but realizes now they didn't do what she'd asked, and she's convinced that's why her family got sick.
I instructed my teenagers to wear masks at all times, but that didn't always happen. And yeah, I really regret that now.
One other bizarre twist to this story, Martin started writing her third book 2 years ago. It's about a worldwide pandemic. She even interviewed people at the CDC in the research process.
It's been surreal to see some of the actual things I described in my book happening.
Martin actually registered with the state of North Carolina to say that she was willing to go back to work in the emergency department if they need her during the pandemic. So far, she says they haven't called. Reporting in Charlotte, Michelle Bowden, WCNC Charlotte.
For the biggest school system in the Charlotte area, planning the new school year with a focus on virtual learning. But what happens to bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and other CMS employees who don't have a role in that plan? New at 6, WCNC Charlotte's Tanya Mendist took that question straight to the superintendent.
If students aren't going back into school buildings like this one, that means there's a lot of staff members who may not be needed this fall. Superintendent Ernest Winston tells me today that he is concerned about how he's going to be able to keep them on the payroll.
Unemployment money is up in the air, and so is the job security for thousands of CMS employees.
But I am worried. I am concerned.
The cafeteria workers, bus drivers, and teaching assistants, the ones who aren't needed when school is virtual. How do you keep them on the payroll? It's a question that's plaguing CMS Superintendent Ernest Winston.
You know, one of the things that keeps me up at night is the fact that if we are in a remote learning environment for a prolonged period of time, that is certainly a challenge that we will have to look at and overcome.
Winston says 2,100 employees could soon be in that boat, and it costs nearly $4 million every 2 weeks to pay them. We've talked to some of those workers who didn't want to be identified when their jobs could be on the line.
It's really hectic not knowing where we stand as drivers because we make the school system keep rolling.
Winston says CMS is looking at providing new work assignments, getting the non-exempt employees new training and professional development. But what they need most, more money to keep as much of the school staff on the books as long as possible.
We will continue to advocate on their behalf for additional resources that would allow us to continue to compensate them and provide alternative work.
We also talked about the teachers who flat out just don't feel safe coming back. For the ones who do have health conditions, there are provisions that the district has put in place. But for people who just don't feel comfortable, the superintendent says he's going to work with those teachers, but he cannot guarantee them a specific job or placement. Reporting in Steel Creek, I'm Tanya Mendis, WCNC Charlotte.
Tornadoes to tropical storms. Severe weather is extreme weather, and we're here to keep you safe and to help you navigate your day.
The Firstborn team is there for you, no matter the conditions and the location.
We're in your hand with the WCNC weather app, and we'll always be there on WCNC Charlotte.
So wake up, plan your day and your life. The Firstborn Storm Team will be there for you.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. All right, well, starting college in the fall or just going back for another year, it's going to look a lot different, very different. So what can you expect? And how can you protect your pocketbook if a COVID spike sends everyone back home? Consumer reporter Bill McGinty is asking, where's the money?
It's the one big thing graduating high school seniors can look forward to. And if you're already in college, you're excited about the possibility of going back to campus life. But that campus life is changing in a very big way. For example, at NC State, face masks are now required for students, staff, and visitors on campus in all campus buildings. They must be worn for in-person instruction and labs. At most universities, they are not required in dorm rooms, but will be required in the lobbies and elevators of dorms. Now on to App State. They have a similar mask policy, and it's going to be required when closer than 6 feet, and it's mandatory in all classrooms. Move-in dates are being staggered at some universities, and as far as the dining halls are concerned, some are moving to takeout only. The fall calendar has been altered at most campuses this year. There isn't going to be a fall break, and the semester is going to end right after Thanksgiving. At Clemson, their goal is to have 75% of courses with some in-person instruction. The classroom layouts have been adjusted there to meet social distancing guidelines. And if you're going to Tiger Country, you've got to get a COVID test 5 days before you go there. And if you test positive, you have to self-isolate for 10 days before you're allowed to go back. But what about the financial components to all this? Shelley has a son going off to college, so if there is a spike, will there be a refund in the dorms? What about the meal plan or the university fees? After all, many kids and parents are using loans to pay for college.
Then to just borrow all that money and then not get the services, and those are services where you live, eating, food. Those are services that you are paying for that you may or may not get.
It is very, very important to read the contract this year. For example, Western Carolina has a pandemic clause that says a university will not be obligated to offer partial refunds or credits if students have to vacate housing. Other universities likewise may have similar policies being added this year.
Bill, you unpacked a lot there. Let's talk about students going back to school on financial aid. What's the status of financial aid going forward?
Well, Fred, I was looking at some of the financial aid options earlier today. Now, under the CARES Act, which was passed last March, student loans were actually suspended all the way through September 30th of this year. Now, there's a lot of talk in Congress about another relief package and what maybe that is going to look like, and will something like this be included in that? So stay tuned for that. But through September 30th, if you have a student loan or if you're going to apply one for this year, you don't have to make any payments right now. If you made a payment, though, during what they call that whole period, the suspension period, is called forbearance. But if you made a payment maybe accidentally when you didn't have to, you can actually ask for a refund and apply that going forward this year. Now, that's not a free payment you made. When you get the money back, you're still going to have to pay it. But forbearance, usually it's tacked on later on in the loan. And I want to remind everybody the difference between a personal loan, or a private loan, rather, I should say, and a federally backed loan. Federally backed loans usually work better for education purposes because the rates right now are so low, 2.75%. And a federally backed loan is a better option for a lot of people because it offers more flexibility in terms of payment options. Fred?
Yep, I remember that. All right, Bill, thank you. Here at 5:30, one young lady in Charlotte is stepping up to help others. She saw a need for her father and was inspired to do the same for many others on the front lines of this pandemic. WCNC Charlotte's Ruby Durham has this reason to smile.
Asta is a rising junior at Audrey Kell High School. Her father, a pulmonologist, is working on the front lines of the pandemic at Charlotte's Novant Health.
Every day he goes to work. He wakes up early. He works long hours, and still he manages to put a smile on his face.
But the teen's father would tell her how he and his coworkers' ears would get sore from wearing masks all day. So she decided to take action.
It hurt me to see all the pain they were going through in order to help us.
Ear savers are stretchable bands that attach to face masks and prevent the elastic from digging into the skin. Since April, Asta has crocheted over 350 by hand to send to those working tirelessly in the healthcare system.
They come in different colors. When you have a mask, you take a button and you put it around the strap, and then you wear your mask normally, and then around you strap it back here. And so it's secure.
The cost? Nothing at all, but the response from the community after posting her efforts to a neighborhood app, overwhelming. Not only has Asta donated ear savers to Novant, healthcare workers at Atrium Piedmont and Novant Health Centra in Lynchburg, Virginia now have protection they need while wearing masks.
I also made cards with positive messages for patients and elderly people.
So far, she's raised $450 from donations, money that will go towards organizations like CMS Valentine Families in Need and Hot Meal and Care Packets for Charlotte Homeless.
It just inspires me to work harder and inspires me to help others because of the way he's also helping so many people during COVID. He's making me want to do it even more.
Reporting for WCNC Charlotte, I'm Ruby Durham.
Thank you for making WCNC.com your #1 choice for local TV news on your phone and in your home, and trusting us on Facebook by giving WCNC Charlotte more followers than any other local TV news source. Thanks again for making us #1.
Time now to connect the dots when we make the news make sense. Social distancing has become the new norm, but it can still be hard to do sometimes, self included. And experts are finding that some people are just naturally better at it than others.
If you've been having trouble social distancing, your brain may be to blame. Let's connect the dots. According to the University of California, your working memory plays a key role when it comes to your ability to practice social distancing. The working memory is your brain's ability to hold on to information for a brief period of time. Research indicates that those with a higher working memory are more likely to distance themselves from others. Experts say this is because social distancing as a new normal requires an intentional decision process, tapping directly into your memory. Researchers believe the act of social distancing will become more habitual for many people, but it won't happen overnight. So if you've been struggling to keep that 6-foot distance, you're going to have to put a little bit more mental persistence into it. And that is connecting the dots.
WCNC Charlotte News Now.
Starting college in the fall or just going back for another year is going to look very different. So what can you expect and how can you protect your pocketbook if a COVID spike sends everyone back home again? Consumer reporter Bill McGinty is asking, where's the money tonight?
Yeah, that's right. I've been looking at the major universities here in both North and South Carolina, and what I can tell you is through my research, big changes are coming for fall 2020. It's the one big thing graduating high school seniors can look forward to. And if you're already in college, you're excited about the possibility of going back to campus life. But that campus life is changing in a very big way. For example, at NC State, face masks are now required for students, staff, and visitors on campus in all campus buildings. They must be worn for in-person instruction in labs. At most universities, they are not required in dorm rooms, but will be required in the lobbies and elevators of dorms. Now on to App State. They have a similar mask policy, and it's going to be required when closer than 6 feet, and it's mandatory in all classrooms. Move-in dates are being staggered at some universities, and as far as the dining halls are concerned, some are moving to takeout only. The fall calendar has been altered at most campuses this year. There isn't going to be a fall break, and the semester is going to end right after Thanksgiving. At Clemson, their goal is to have 75% of courses with some in-person instruction. The classroom layouts have been adjusted there to meet social distancing guidelines. And if you're going to Tiger Country, you've got to get a COVID test 5 days before you go there. And if you test positive, you have to self-isolate for 10 days before you're allowed to go back. But what about the financial components to all this? Shelley has a son going off to college, so if there is a spike, will there be a refund in the dorms? What about the meal plan or the university fees? After all, many kids and parents are using loans to pay for college.
Then to just borrow all that money and then not get the services, and those are services where you live, eating, food. Those are services that you are paying for that you may or may not get.
It is very, very important to read the contract this year. For example, Western Carolina has a pandemic clause that says a university will not be obligated to offer partial refunds or credits if students have to vacate housing. Other universities likewise may have similar policies being added this year. One thing we haven't talked about much is off-campus housing. If your student is living in off-campus housing like an apartment complex that is not affiliated with the university and you signed a lease, if COVID hits and everything goes remote again, you're going to be obligated to pay that lease because it's a private institution. It's not affiliated with the campus. If the university decides to give refunds for housing, that's a totally separate issue. If you signed a lease at an apartment complex off campus, you're going to be obligated to pay that money even if the apartment sits empty. I'm Bill McGinty reporting.
Fred, I recently spoke to a college student and he was concerned about so many of these things that he was going to pay and then school was going to end up being remote or virtual, and then he's already paid that, and then he lives in the dorm and he's worried if it closes, he's trying to figure out where he's going to live because he doesn't want to go back and live with his parents.
My head is spinning just thinking about all of those things. It was stressful enough and exciting enough to start college as a freshman, but I can't imagine what it's like for these kids trying to begin this new phase of life during a pandemic.
Yeah, such a tough time.
Tornadoes to tropical storms, severe weather is extreme weather, and we're here to keep you safe and to help you navigate your day.
The Firstborn team is there for you, no matter the conditions and the location.
We're in your hand with the WCNC weather app, and we'll always be there on WCNC Charlotte.
So wake up, plan your day and your life. The First Warn Storm Team will be there for you.
Here in Mecklenburg County, and tonight, Health Director Gibby Harris is talking with us live. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Gibby.
I'm happy to be here.
Well, we want to start with a statement we heard from Novant Health yesterday that our area is past the peak of COVID-19. Do you believe that's true? And what do you think we can attribute it to?
It's difficult to say that we're past a peak because I think what we're seeing and have the potential for seeing going into the fall is a matter of waves as opposed to a peak. But I do see that we have, to some degree, managed this particular situation that we have going right now, and that we are not seeing the ongoing upward situation that many other communities are seeing right now. Mm-hmm. We've stabilized, and we're managing in a way that we can keep it in a place where the hospital systems are able to take care of the patients that they need to take care of, and the people that need to be tested are able to get tests.